Welcome back, everybody. This is DESC Careers Digital Spotlights. I'm so excited to be bringing you our next guest today. His name is Ali Salama, and he was a DESC sixth form student not too long ago. Ali left us in the summer of 2014 and went from year 12 to Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Ali. Welcome to our platform.
Hi, Maria. It's a pleasure.
It's so exciting to have you here, Ali. I know we've had a couple of conversations before this interview, but I'm so excited to be bringing a student who was a DESC student and is accomplishing so much in such a short amount of time. But I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to ask that you tell us what you've been up to and where did your sixth form experience take you after you left DESC?
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. So yeah, DESC definitely changed my life from a perspective of my experience. I think that something I always am very proud of when I come to think of my time at DESC is that I learned how to speak Spanish. And like I remember very well, Mr. Neil Redondo and my Spanish A-level classes. I was the only non-Spanish native speaker. And the fact that like ahora puedo hablar español como un latino exactamente, which means like I now speak like a Latin exactly, without an accent, without like I that was a huge accomplishment of mine. I learned the language because of the resources and the access that I had. And that's something that that's my biggest accomplishment at DESC. But other than that, I still remember like the fact that the water polo squad. I remember Miss Pennickett. I remember Miss Turner. I remember so many really great memories. And I think what I liked the most about, what we were doing was, it was very balanced between sports and education. And that helped me in my mind because I was a professional swimmer at the time. And it's definitely, as you say, DESC, and as you introduced me like that, I feel a lot of nostalgia and flashbacks coming back. But everything started really because I always knew that I wanted to do something when I chose business at A levels, and I always knew that I wanted to sort of take that acumen that I gained and channel it somewhere. I didn't know where I was going to channel it, but this is kind of like where it all started in my mind.
Fantastic, Ali. Okay, so where did you go after you left DESC?
So when I left DESC in June 2014, I traveled to Toronto, and I landed a place at Ryerson University in their entrepreneurship sort of program, and I always knew I was very passionate about entrepreneurship, especially because I've always been a creative misfit in a way. Had this balance between art being super artsy. Like I was singing. I actually won DESC Factor the year before that year that I left. We won DESC Factor, and I remember Mr. Gibbs very well. He was he was a deciding factor in the final two acts, and I remember he gave us the benefit of the doubt. I think he was kind of intrigued by the fact that two boys can stand up on a stage and who were like part of the A-team football squad and sing. And I think he wanted to give us some recognition. But yeah, no, I eventually landed a place in a business school, and that's when everything sort of started with me and learning kind of what I took from the DESC experience to really implement and showcase in Canada. And then something I realized is that, I love the Canadian system here, but, the way that we were being handled by the A levels and the education system that, DESC brought, it put me on a pedestal when I came here. And I've always leveraged the fact that I had very strong assets compared to other peers of mine, even though the entrepreneurship school or institute at Ryerson is one of the strongest in Canada. So that really gave me an edge, and I think I heavily attribute that to where I am now.
Amazing. It's so great to hear you remember your time at DESC and see you smiling and giggling as well. Because I know as members of the staff, that's our biggest hope, is that young people like you leave, and when they remember their time, that they have these fond memories. So it's so great to see you do that. And I know any teacher, any member of the team, maybe even Mr. Gibbs watching this right now will be smiling and thinking, wow, those are really fond memories. Ali, do you remember being an A-level student? Do you remember thinking that university was the biggest step of your life?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So I want you to go back to that time and kind of walk in those shoes, because I know that there will be students in the sixth form watching this right now, and being able to relate to that time for you. What would you say would have been the top three things that you wish you knew that would have prepared you for your time leaving Dubai?
Yeah, that's a very, very tough question. I think if I knew three things that I wish I had known when I was sitting on that computer fixing my resume or my CV and trying to be an appealing candidate, was that I just needed to know who I was, and I needed to know what I love, because there's so many different factors when I was, or when you, or when I was young, and I remember thinking, going and seeing like the salary of this job, and like all these things that are really like uh, they don't matter in retrospect, because I wish I had known that like things are now what you make out of them, and not arbitrary, and not what you read, because this is the world that we live in today. And I think that now, what I would have loved to like have gained that back then was just don't worry, just take the first step towards what you love. Figure out what subject that inspires you the most, and don't worry about how this will make you an elite person. I mean, I've always had very high expectations of myself. That year that I left, I was also swimming in the world championships in Dubai, in the World Cup. So to me, having high expectations of myself didn't even come from my parents. It was just from me internally. So the angle that I'm taking this in is, I just wish that I knew you could be the best at what you love doing, and that is enough. Because I was very worried choosing things that wouldn't have, elated, or wouldn't have equaled my same level of education, my standard. I had a lot of worries in that room writing my CV. I wasn't the boy at school who was, the prefect, or I didn't have anything. Like I didn't actually, like I loved sports and I loved doing what I did, but I wasn't this academic sort of, I didn't have all these extracurriculars that many people had. I was doubting myself. And even at university, I didn't have that. But I spent time doing what I loved, and that is what matters. So my only thing that I wish I had known back then is, if you love something, then that will take the limelight, that will take all the limelight that you think you should have gotten in something else onto you. And I think that people now want to see students, whether they're desk students or whether they're university students, they just want to see them curious and interested in learning, and they want to see attitude more than they want to see boxes being ticked. And this is something I really wanted to know back then.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What about the next two tips?
The next two tips were to uh, you're squeezing me in the corner there. The next two tips are just really, really, really understand that the people that you meet at desk are the people that uh, you are more than likely going to have the strongest bonds and relationship with. I think that's something that I didn't know. Me, my best friend, Dan Perry, and even Sully were, I mean, we still talk every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WhatsApp video call. It's a commitment we made to ourselves. again, it's very important for my academic achievement or my personal achievement to still maintain that level of friendship, because that enhances everything. And I just wish I had known that that played a role in me feeling accomplished. And that is very important in university, because it's a very difficult time in university when you're transitioning. And I think we don't know that in hindsight. The third thing that I want to introduce, the third piece of advice was, I wish I just used the platforms that we had. I mean, I definitely knew that, someone did what I wanted to do on Facebook or whatever. So I just wish I had given myself a little bit more to, take risks and ask, I don't know, this business owner, what does he do on a day to day, or like, and actually go and have a conversation with him and not be intimidated by who I am at a very young age. And I think that age is something I've been battling with doing as you said, like a lot at a very young age. But one thing that I wish that I really took full force is going out there and searching for the answers from people who have lived experience with careers that I want to, and understanding that their experience is not going to be my experience, because their personalities are very different to my personality. And I need to be able to deduce, okay, if he is acting this way, or if I have known this person for 30 minutes and I realized that his moral compass or his value or his core values are leaning towards that or that direction, does that mean that I will get the same experience? And I think making sense uh, of the path that I wanted to go would have been a lot easier for me to be less stressed. And I think this is something that we go through as high schoolers or as secondary or sixth formers. I think that our parents are sometimes, not for all cases, are doing jobs that will not exist by the time we're in the market. And I think that it's so hard for us to just sometimes follow the footsteps of what we believe is the status quo, because the status quo is always changing. And once we realize where we want to go, because of what we love, we will always be up to date with the status quo in whichever direction that is, and not necessarily the arbitrary direction of where we just thought we were going to be, because we just conditioned our minds that we'd want to go in this direction because we were told that it was like that. Because one day you wake up and you realize you don't want to be told what to do. You want to be in full charge, and this is how you take charge of it step by step.
Amazing. Probably a parent's scariest moment, when you wake up and realize that you don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
But that's great. It's great. I love the thought that you're putting into this, because it's a really big thing to think about, isn't it? What do I wish I would have known that could have helped me on my path after leaving DESC? So you went into entrepreneurship, and what did you do with it?
So yeah, I did quite a bit with like discovering a little bit more about um, entrepreneurship and business. And sometimes we're just told that to be successful, it's kind of like you wake up, or we're told Mark Zuckerberg stories where we're not really told this other side of, I don't want to call it the dark side of entrepreneurship, or the reality of what it takes to really be a self-starter. But at the end of the day, nothing worth having is easy. And the fact that we are told stories that are less than 1%, or make up of less than 1% of the DNA of the entire field, it's very, very, it's far from the truth. And what I took from entrepreneurship was, now, you don't just wake up and decide to have a business, or you don't just suddenly decide to build an institution, or to build, there are so many ways. Entrepreneurship is like a science. It's a science of its own. There are many studies on how to effectively understand, the what the person in front of you, or what the community in front of you needs, pain points, value additions. What's your unique proposition that you're offering to them, and coming up with so many different ways. It's kind of like, I always say, if you're a very curious person, you will become the the best, and I don't just say a business person, because that's a given if you are a great entrepreneur. And I think this sense of curiosity that I got to harness with scientific experiments, testing hypotheses, just as I used to do in AS physics, when you had to test experiments and see whether, uh, I just applied the same things, but from a business. And I think no one really thinks about that when they think of business, but that was something that made me so happy. And that's how I probably was able to accomplish that before, in that period of time, because I always tested things. And I think that it humbles you, because my professor would always tell me, I don't want to know what you're doing right. I want to always know what you're doing that's wrong. And the answers are always outside the building. And I think that is what I learned from business school, more than any lesson. Our entrepreneurship, my entrepreneurship institute, which
That's
was the
wonderful.
Ryerson.
So you left DESC,
Yeah.
you graduated from university. You've got a fabulous certificate on your wall. We can see quite a few behind you. What are you
Yeah.
now doing, Ali?
So yeah, after really discovering a lot of my passions in that program, and I kept testing, and what I meant by saying I kept testing ideas, and I kept testing things, and I succeeded in some and I failed in many. And that's a very important lesson to also note, because nothing will just come right first time around. Um, Now what I'm doing is I started the Middle East's first mental health magazine, and before that I tapped into a business venture which was called Visit Egypt, and I was showcasing Egypt as a leading worldwide destination. And that allowed me to, through testings, of course, I didn't know that Toronto had the biggest sort of, the YouTubers that make all those really crazy landscape or travel films. I partnered up with them because of Toronto. I understood that where I was, like if I was in Dubai and there was something really good about the landscape in Dubai, I harnessed that to basically showcase my country as a worldwide destination. And that worked. We made a video and it hit 1 million in under a week views with total organic reach. And I realized, wow, I learned so much about the digital landscape, social media, blah, blah, blah. But then I wasn't that passionate about it, because I think, again, you kept asking at the start, like, what do you wish you would have learned? And I think that this is what I've come to, is understanding that you can do great in so many things, but unless you really feel something in your heart, you will excel at it. You won't just do great. And I realized that I had a personal challenge with my personal life, and I realized that I needed to do something about it. And that was when I took all that I learned from the successes, the failures, and what entrepreneurship school taught me, and I decided to launch this magazine. And sooner rather than later, I got a job at a big financial institution here, the fifth largest in North America. I just really good salary, and I just really didn't fit in. And I think my values were the most important thing here. And while I was at that internship, right out of graduating 4 years of university, I got an opportunity to speak at the World Health Organization. And that was when I started the magazine. Like, I think that was only 3 months after I started the magazine. And that was when I realized, wow, okay, maybe there's something there. And I just ended up not continuing the full-time position after I finished my internship period. And yeah, that's what I do right now. I speak on mental health and well-being. I'm a speaker here. I've spoken at many schools in Canada, and that's what I do for a living. I produce and communicate to the Middle East, especially how to live a better quality life through the misunderstanding that we have around mental well-being and mental health. Because in hindsight, like, that was something that I lacked, even though I was a very physically strong person, mentally, academically, everything. And I just needed to know that that was something that that if I could really pursue and as a social entrepreneur, and I don't even think I'm a social entrepreneur. I think I'm a social artistpreneur, because I think, as I said, I'm super creative yet super businessy, and I think an artistpreneur is something that is a term that I want to discover more, and that was harnessed at DESC, because that was when I started singing, and that was when I got 7 A stars, 2 A's, and a B. That was when I did, I pursued, the Spanish as like a second language. It's very artistic. The process wasn't linear at all, and I think I just needed to follow what was in my mind and what I felt. My mom never spoke a word in Spanish. I didn't come from a music family, it was just, I was doing me. And I think that is what I wish, someone would have told me, that it's okay to do you, and it's okay to have a very different path than your best friends. And as long as there's respect, and as long as people understand that you are who you are, that is never going to take away. It's only going to add to you.
Wow, Ali. So Ali left in 2014. He didn't leave at the end of year 13. He left at the end of year 12, went off to Canada, went to university, did a 4-year degree in entrepreneurship, graduated, did an internship, and started a magazine. And here you are, social entrepreneur. And I see the traction that you're making on LinkedIn. I'm reading about you, Ali. I mean, you are not just an inspirational young man. You are the most inspirational young man that I have met in a really long time. And I think, Ali, what you're doing is helping so many. It's so great to hear your story. It's so great to bring you back to DESC. And even though you were there at a time that I wasn't, I was there as a parent. It's so great to see you coming back, Ali, and bringing you back to the college. I know there's a lot of year 12 and 13 students sitting watching this right now, probably even parents thinking, wow, that will be us in not too long a time. And it's always great to bring alumni students back to DESC, because how can we not be inspired by someone who went through our system and has come out the other end a very successful young man. So thank you so much, Ali, for joining us. We look forward to seeing where Empower Mag takes you into the future. How can we find you, Ali, if we want to read the magazine and learn about your journey?
So I'll send you the link of the magazine. It's empowermag.com. But if you'd like to find me on LinkedIn, I think that would be best. And I highly encourage, the use of LinkedIn, especially for us young students or young professionals. I think it's a great platform. Or you can typically find me on Instagram. I'm pretty active there. I love Instagram. It's my non-professional platform, and I read every message there. But if you'd like to definitely connect with me, and I'd love to connect with you and add you as I will typically accept everyone that has DESC as their school. I love giving back. And when you reached out, I was like, I'm definitely doing it. It was a dream of mine to always come back and return with something, because it's just something that I'm honored to do, and it's not a favor. I think we owe our teachers, and I owe so much to the system and my mom for choosing that system, because you never understand I know I'm like taking you off on another like tangent here, but you never understand the value of what you had until you're put in a sea of people that have no labels, and you have to sort of figure yourself out. So yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, that's really it.
Super, super fantastic. And I know Mrs. McCulley, wherever you are right now watching this, she is ever so proud of you, Ali. She's following you very, very closely on LinkedIn as well. And that brings us to the end of another amazing interview with one of our own, Ali Salama, who left us in 2014, but has come back to inspire us. And I know we're going to be seeing a lot more of Ali in the upcoming academic year. So watch this space, DESC, and our DESC community. Thank you, Ali. And we'll see you all again at the next DESC Careers Digital Spotlight. Thank you for watching.